Hello and welcome to another stream of Rise of the Tomb Raider. This is Phase 1, 100% of celebrating the game's 10th anniversary. Hey there, Ryu. How's things today, dude? So as you can see on the save file, we have 100% completed the game, and in the last stream I showed all the things that I had actually accomplished as well. But there's one more thing that I want to do for this playthrough, and that's to do the Blood Ties DLC, which is a DLC that takes place in Lara's mansion. It doesn't have any action moments. It's all about exploring. It's all about listening to journal entries from Lara's mother and father as well, and learning a little bit more about this version of Lara Croft's backstory and her upbringing and also her parents as well. So in this DLC you get a lot of Amelia Croft, who is Lara's mother, who unfortunately passed away when Lara was only a child. So we have a lot of things related to that. And essentially the story of the Blood Ties DLC is that Lara's uncle, the brother of her mother, whose family didn't actually like Richard Croft at all and were against Amelia marrying him in the first place, he basically doesn't approve of what Lara is doing with her life and has threatened to cut off her from the estate if she doesn't actually comply with his demands. So that's essentially what this DLC is about. Lara's actually trying to find proof that her mother actually died, because the death certificate was never signed. There was no official declaration of her death. And so her uncle is using that as ammunition against the fact that her father went around him, so to speak, because he was the executor of the will and all that kind of stuff. So he was left in charge of the will of his sister in case his sister died, and unfortunately she did. And so that's what this DLC is about, that we're about to do. Glad to hear that you're going well, Ryu. That's excellent, dude. Oops, I went to the wrong thing. I was supposed to go to expeditions. Once it lets me, I'll go back to the menu. Alright, so we want to go to expeditions, and we want to go to Oh no, it's not this one. Hang on. Croft Manor. Here we go. Croft Manor. So it says continue story of blood ties because before I started this playthrough, I just wanted to test to make sure the content was actually available. So we're going to go new story blood ties. I won't be doing new expedition Lara's Nightmare, but we'll be doing the blood ties DLC here. Hey there, nah bro. No ticket? Aw. You're kicking me out of my own stream? No, just kidding. Oh, okay. You are currently broadcasting but have the broadcast interactions option disabled. Would you like to enable broadcast interactions to allow viewers to vote on cards that are applied to your game? No. Because that's not what we're doing here. So we'll go no. No, bro, imagine, yeah. It's like, streamer, do you have a ticket to be on your own channel?
Final notice to Lara Croft, a current tenant of premises. This is to serve as your final notice for the purposes of terminating your ownership of Croft Manor. You are required to immediately vacate and surrender possession of said manor to Atlas de Mornay, executor of estates.
Lara, it is unfortunate that you have forced my hand in this matter, but so be it. As you know, your parents appointed me executor of the estate in the event of their absence. Since your mother disappeared, her death was never technically declared. And given the circumstances surrounding your father's death, it's no surprise that he never drafted a formal last will and testament to account for this circumstance. Unfortunately, you have no legal claims to the estate. I'm willing to negotiate a modest monthly stipend from your trust, but only if you leave the manor by week's end. Don't fight me on this, Lara. Your mother wouldn't want that. Sincerely, Atlas.
There has to be a will or some kind of evidence of what happened to Mum in the manor somewhere. Dad's safe. My birthday crown. I was so proud of that thing.
Nah, bro, imagine they're gonna have to ask you to leave. It's like, oh.
That's my handwriting. My penmanship was pretty good. Dad would have liked me to go to Oxford, but I insisted on UCL. Yep, looks real. Roth once offered to forge me a fake diploma to show Dad.
That's as far as I can actually zoom in on this. University of Oxford. This is to certify that it appears by the register of the examinations, I think that's what that says, that Richard James Croft satisfied the examiners in the final Honour School of Classical Archaeology in Trinity term 1988 was placed by them in the first class and is therefore qualified by examinations for the examiners or examinations for the degree of Doctorate of Archaeology. No, bro, I don't make the rules, I just work here. It's a good thing that's not how it actually works. Notice served. Inciting incident letter. A court order served notice with a separate note from her uncle informing Lara that she must vacate the premises of Croft Manor unless she can find an explicit last will and testament that grants the manor to Lara. Lord Croft's diploma.
Well, this is a hell of a thing. I met someone tonight quite unexpectedly. But it shouldn't have been, it seems. I've been so buried in my work, so distracted by my latest revelations, I never bothered to notice my surroundings. But there she was, sitting at my table in the library. Her name is Amelia, and apparently she's been studying right next to me. Art history, of all things. I shared some of my research against my better judgment, but I wanted to see how she would respond, and she did not disappoint. I felt as if I was suddenly engaged in a mental game of chess, moving and counter-moving in argument. At one point, that poor old librarian had to shush us as if we were children. I feel so foolish for not having noticed her earlier. She's a brilliant woman who's challenged my ideas for the first time in memory. In truth, I don't know if she's feeling as exhilarated as I am right now, but I dare say our conversation was mutually stimulating. For the first time in a long time, I find myself thinking about something else besides my research. I hope she returns for another round tomorrow.
First impressions, Lord Croft's journals. I always knew that my parents met at Oxford, but never the circumstances, just like Dad to argue mythology as a way to flirt.
My parents made a good team, challenging each other from the start.
So there's a little bit of disconnect with the trilogy when it comes to Lara and her memories of what happened when she was a child. The memories that she has of finding her father dead. Now that's something that matches up with what they do in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, they show what Lara was doing before she discovered that her father was dead. So all that lines up. But there's a lot of things, if you look at the 2013 game, that don't actually quite match up, because it kind of implies that Lara was actually a lot older when her parents actually died. Whereas in Rise, it continues that, but then in Shadow we see that she was still a child when her parents died. So it's kind of like the memories that Lara has, like that comment she made there about, you know, she like her parents were challenging each other like that. Now I guess you could chalk it up to she's just hearing that and retroactively is able to put herself in that sort of like position of objectivity where she can go, oh yeah, no, that was like that. But yeah, there's just some discrepancies from each game to the next in terms of like what Lara remembers and all that kind of stuff. Like that that thing about Lara saying that her father wanted her to go to Oxford, but she went to RCU instead, or whatever it was. Like, I guess you could say that that still matches up, because like she could have been told by Roth that that's where her father wanted her to go. You know what I mean? So there's probably some explanations as to why some of these things at first don't match up, but then they do. But I think there is some stuff that doesn't actually connect that properly. Now, but it'd be interesting if they made a Tomb Raider movie in the style of the 1999 Mummy. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes it different, of course, is the time period. But in terms of like having Lara go on an adventure, I mean, the first movie is more of an adventure movie than the second movie was. The second movie was more of a James Bond movie, but with Lara Croft instead. It even had the same formula as the James Bond movies, where James Bond is working for MI6, and he's given a mission to go and stop this villain, and usually the villains in Bond have this plan to either control the world or destroy the world, and sometimes they like to use various sort of like ways to do that, whether it's a big giant bomb, whether it's a big death ray, or whether it's a, you know, whatever it is. And so in the second Tomb Raider movie, even though Lara doesn't work for MI6, she gets hired by MI6 to go and stop this villain who wants to use a chemical weapon to destroy the world. You see what I mean? So the second movie was more about the action and the James Bond style approach, Whereas the first one had action in it, but it was also about an adventurer going on an adventure, and it has a bit more of an Indiana Jones feel about it, I feel. Now, bro, stuff like that makes you wish they'd just keep the same team making each game rather than have different directors. Yeah, I mean, the thing is too, like, I think that irrespective of what the next person might think about what came before, any changes that they want to make shouldn't just be, oh, we'll just let you make whatever changes you want and then we won't double check to see if there's any discrepancies. We'll just let you go, you know. Like, I still think there needs to be some level of, we appreciate your creativity in coming up with this alternate way of how things could have gone, but we really want you to stick with what has been established already so that we can keep that consistency as well. But then you get games too where it's like features that were added that then get taken away, and you think to yourself, why did they take that feature away when it was working perfectly fine? People weren't complaining about it. They actually enjoyed that feature. Why take it out? You know? And I imagine sometimes it's simply because the people that are in control of the narrative of the game in the second, game or the third or the fourth decide, we don't like that. We'll take that mechanic out. I feel like there's things that should be objectively kept in, no matter what subjective opinion people working on it actually have as well. Like if I was hired to do a second season of a show, I wouldn't just come up with whatever I wanted and then just be like, well, this is my vision for season 2. And if someone was like, well, how come this character that was in season 1 and was acting a certain way is now completely acting different? Oh, because I wanted them to. Yeah, but what's the actual reasoning inside the story universe? I don't care. I just want it to be like that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, okay, this is where season 1 ended. This is where the characters were at. This is what they were doing. What can we do to continue the story on now, keeping all that stuff in mind? Because I think consistency is important because it helps keep things in a state where you can understand the evolution of stuff. You know, if you're jumping all over the place and you're having like very different kinds of like stories with the same characters and all that kind of stuff, like there has to be a level of matching things up better instead of just being like, well, I don't like what the other game did, so I'm going to do this. No, but I never understood the old wipe out the world ploy. Because what's left to rule after you've destroyed everything? That's right. Like in Resident Evil 5 with Wesker. He wants to essentially annihilate the planet. I mean, technically he doesn't want the whole planet to be destroyed, but he's so crazy that he doesn't even care if that actually happens. He just wants to be able to wipe everything out and start with a clean slate, with only the best of the best in the world.
A picture with Dad and Anna. Never liked wearing dresses, but the color was nice.
It's so funny that Lara mentions that she didn't like wearing dresses, because in the first Tomb Raider movie, Lara also doesn't like to wear dresses, and it's not until the end of the movie that she actually compromises and wears one. But I like how at the end that the big giant robot that at the start of the movie was programmed to help Lara with her training, but was programmed to actually kill her as like a test, that the robot comes back at the end of the movie, and then Lara throws the white hat that she's wearing, and she's still wearing the dress, and then she's got the dual pistols and turns around to start to fight, and then it freeze frames on it.
This is probably my grandfather Benjamin.
No, bro, yeah, it's pretty much like the Disney Star Wars trilogy. Felt like each director had a different vision and tried to clean up the other director's mess. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, not everything that George Lucas had written for the original trilogy was 100% thought out, and it all ended up exactly the way in every single instance that he actually thought of. So there were some, changes that were made along the way and all that kind of stuff. But even though they had different directors, they still had the same person doing the story, which was George Lucas. And so when you have that, and of course you have all the talented screenwriters that also worked as well, taking those story ideas and actually fleshing them out. But the way that they did the sequel trilogy, it was a little bit all over the place, like the passing the baton approach in a marathon style of like, okay, so you've done this movie, now you pass the baton onto the next director, but the director can then decide, let's run in a different direction, to keep using the analogy. We'll just run in a different direction. Meanwhile, the other director, the first thing is looking at the person running away with the baton going, why are you going in that direction for? That's not the direction we were going in. And then, when the second director is like, alright, here's the next director. Here's the baton to you. Now, obviously, in the case of the sequel trilogy, this analogy doesn't consider the fact that you have the same director coming back for the third one in the trilogy. But the original plan was for a different director yet again to do the third of the trilogy. So anyway, and then it's like, oh, we need to go back in the direction that we actually were originally going, but we've gone so far away from the actual target that we need to force ourselves across this terrain to get to this other point so that we can then get back on track, But I think it's okay to have like different creative people, but at the end of the day, there still has to be a thing set out where it's like, right, these are the rules, so to speak. If you want to add on to this character, by all means do so, but keep in mind that this is the end goal with the character. We want the character to get to this point ultimately. So I feel like they needed to plan it out a bit more. But I think in general, planning things out a bit more is a good idea. I think the best thing to do is to go, right, this first story is going to be the best that we can make it. We're going to tell a complete story. We're going to tell it from start to finish. And we're going to have a satisfying ending. But the wider universe that the story takes place in, there's other things that we could focus on in a sequel that the character from the first story then gets involved with, So then it becomes a new chapter of the character's story. And so when the third one comes along, it's the same thing. It's like, right, we want the character to get to this point, so we need to make sure that we don't do anything that compromises that. Otherwise, there'll just be inconsistencies and all that kind of stuff that comes along as well. But I think so. I think too, like, it's probably depending on who's actually in charge ultimately, who makes the decision. Because there's always someone above someone else that is like, right, I'm the one that has more control and power over this, so what I say goes, and the other people will just have to comply. Otherwise they just, either get fired or they just leave, so. Hey Amanda Nicole, how's it going? How's your day going today? Another classic case of too many cooks in the kitchen. Exactly. That's it. It's like we're baking a cake, and then halfway through it's like, why are you making a casserole for? Oh, I wanted to. Yeah, but we're making desserts. We're making a cake. Why'd you go off on that tangent? Because I wanted to. It's like, but that's not the original plan. If we were doing something that wasn't dessert, then that's understandable. But our task was to bake a cake, not make a casserole. You're going good, Amanda Nicole. That's excellent. That's really, really good. As for me, going well. Going to be doing this DLC, and then that'll be the Phase 1 playthrough done. And then at a later date, I'll do a Phase 2. But having a good day, though. It's been a good Monday.
One of Dad's Yoruba masks. A gift from a friend he met on an expedition in Nigeria. Dad's book about immortality myths might be useful in my research.
Truth Behind Myth by Lord Richard Croft. Second edition. Richard Croft explores myth something something lost. Truths within Christianity. The word myth, something on historical something, I don't know, I can't zoom in any further, and I don't have Superman eyesight to be able to see that all. They really should have let you zoom in a bit further on that one. There's a lot of other items in this game that let you do that, zoom in really close, because where they've put the item in the first place is already close. Now, bro, you always love when they bring us back to the mansion in Tomb Raider games. This game loses points because you can't lock the butler in the freezer. The funny thing is, though, there's actually a reference to this version of Lara when she was a child actually doing that to Winston the butler. So like in this version of Lara Croft, they make it that it's not something that was just a gameplay thing, that it's something that she actually did. So I thought that was quite funny.
Dad's map of the forgotten cities of northern Syria. He was closer than he knew to finding the Prophet's tomb.
Yeah, no, bro, it's really funny. I thought that was quite clever. There's also another reference to old school Tomb Raider with a piece of music that you can play. Ancient map. Ancient map from the Old Kingdom.
I finally introduced Richard to the family. It went precisely how I imagined. Icy but polite grace from mother, indifference and disinterest from father, and thinly veiled contempt from Atlas. Of course they don't approve. To them, Lord Croft is the man who took away their beloved daughter and ruined her long-standing engagement, though I was never going to marry that repugnant Earl of Farringdon anyway. One might think they would be happy that I was being courted by a genuine lord of the realm. It just happens to be Richard Croft. In their eyes, the man who single-handedly ruined a once great family. But there's nothing to be done now. Watching how Richard dealt with their subtle insults and disrespect. Such grace and calm. I know he did it for me. I think I'm falling in love with this man. It will break my mother's heart, but I cannot live the life she imagined for me. My time with Richard has only made this clearer.
Next steps. Amelia's journals. Mom's own words. I can almost imagine her speaking. I wish I could remember her voice. Slight correction that needed to be made here when they actually did this. In Britain and in Australia as well, we actually say mum, not mom. So I don't know why that didn't actually go. I don't know why that wasn't fixed by proofreaders, but anyway. It's supposed to be Mum's own words. I can almost hear her speaking. I wish I could remember her voice. What's interesting about this whole thing is that the original version of Lara Croft, from the first 6 games in the series, she is the one whose parents actually wanted her to marry an earl, but she actually refused and they disowned her. And they're still alive for that version of Lara. But what they did for the reboot version is they took the concept of the original version of Lara refusing to marry the Earl and her parents disowning her, and they made Amelia, Lara's mother, be the one who was supposed to marry someone, but then she refused. But in her case, she decided to marry someone else, and that ended up being Richard Croft. Whereas in the classic Tomb Raider games, Lara's parents were the ones that wanted Lara to get married to an earl, and she refused, and they disowned her, so they weren't in her life anymore. But they survived and were still alive as adults. Whereas in this version, they took Lara's mother and made her the one that refused to marry. And so that way it creates a difference. And of course, she unfortunately dies when Lara's still a child. So this version of Lara loses both of her parents through death, whereas the classic Lara loses her parents only from the perspective of they don't consider her their daughter anymore. She still is, obviously, but they don't consider her a daughter or their daughter anymore, simply because she didn't get married to the guy that they wanted her to.
It must have been hard for Mum to go against her family's wishes. I'm glad she did.
And I like that this version of Lara says that too, because that element falls in line with classic Lara, how classic Lara would definitely feel that being forced to marry was was a no thing to do.
The door to the library. Locked. There's got to be another way through. This is the map I made for my first expedition with Dad. It shows a path to the library through the servants' passages. Dad's artifacts from the Nile Valley. I always loved looking at these. Dad became interested in immortality myths after his expeditions to Egypt.
Egypt. Classic Tomb Raider location. That's where I had hoped the next Tomb Raider game after Shadow would actually take place.
Too dark. Going to need a flashlight.
Hi, Dad. I've been thinking about Mum lately. I wish I knew more about her. How did you meet? What was she like? Winston told me that she was a brilliant artist. Are some of her paintings locked up in the West Wing? And I guess I just want to know, did she love me, Dad? Did she ever say that she did? Maybe I'm just being silly, but will you tell me more about her the next time I'm home from school?
Asking about mum messages. It was so hard for Dad to talk about mum. I'm sorry. I'm going to harp on this about every time. Just kidding. Not every time, but still. Hey, Anasune. How's it going? Welcome on in.
Lara, I've reviewed the report from your therapist. I have to say I was surprised to see a clean bill of health. I somehow doubt you've so easily abandoned your irrational claims. Indeed, where have you been the past few weeks? My secretary discovered that you booked a flight to Turkey on the 20th. You can't have been simply sightseeing, as your customs claims suggest. I know you're up to something, and I'll be damned if I let you use the Croft assets to indulge the same obsession that led to my sister's death. It's not too late to relinquish your claims on the manor voluntarily. If you refuse, I will find a way to cut you off. Sincerely, Atlas.
Clearance. Atlas de Mornay. I don't know how I feel about keeping this old manor, but one thing is clear to me. I need Uncle Atlas out of my life for good. Atlas, in Greek myth, I think had to wear the weight of the actual planet on his shoulders. This Atlas, I think, needs to have a stick removed from his ass that he's got up there.
The Grand Hall. Always loved playing in here as a kid. This will be one of the first things to fix. A phoenix figurine. I bet this appealed to Dad's idea of immortality, of rising from the ashes and being born anew.
So now you're doing all right. This is probably a weird question, but in Brotherhood, do you remember if all the memories are stringed together, forced to do them one after the other? You mean? You know some of them are. You just can't remember if all of them are in sequence 8. Yeah, Anasune. So once you start doing the memories where Ezio is going to the Castel Sant'Angelo to get the apple, and where you have Rodrigo getting killed and all that kind of stuff, I do believe that all those are strung together. But I don't know if every single memory is strung together to the point where you can't exit out of the memory and go and explore anymore. Because I haven't actually tried at each interval of each memory to exit out to see. But I do know that if you want to do the Da Vinci Disappearance DLC, which actually takes place between sequence 8 and 9, there's no way to get out of the part that transitions to sequence 9 and then go and do that DLC and then go back in to sequence 9. So you either have to do the Da Vinci Disappearance DLC as soon as it becomes available, which I can't remember now when, or you have to do it before you get into sequence 8, or you have to do it after you finish the main story.
This belongs to Anna. Most of her belongings are in the guest house. What was she doing in here? Someone has a sense of humor.
So the message that is on there that Lara was referring to when she said someone has a sense of humor is stop smoking, love, Richard. Well, R for Richard.
Lara, you know the West Wing is off limits.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see...
We've been through this.
Was Mum's room in here?
Just stay out of there, darling.
Dad was always so protective of the West Wing. Another one of Dad's immortality artifacts. I think Roth bought this for him from a trader in Greece.
I do like how they mention Roth in this DLC as well. Later on in this DLC, we actually get to see that Lara kept Roth's dual pistols from after the end of the 2013 game. So they kept teasing it, but in this trilogy of games, they never brought the dual pistols back as an actual thing that you could have for an entire game. So in this trilogy, the only point where Lara gets to use two pistols at once is actually at the end of the 2013 game, where you have to kill Matthias. I was saying, okay, yeah, I was asking because you wanted to do the Da Vinci DLC as close as possible, while still doing it as Desmond, or with Rebecca, Sean, and Lucy would probably be a better way to put it. Oh yeah, Nasune, because like if you do it before everything finishes in the present day, it'll be one different kind of like, exchange of dialogue and all that kind of stuff. But if you wait to do it after the events of the story, it'll be a very different... I can't remember who it is that's speaking, but I think it might be Desmond's father, William, and someone else that's talking.
Lara, since your return from your expedition to Yamatai, I've grown increasingly alarmed at your erratic behavior. I can only assume you suffered some kind of psychological trauma and are only acting out as a call for help. I want you to know that I hear you, loud and clear. Anna and I agree that it's time for you to be evaluated by a professional. I took the liberty of arranging an introduction to a highly qualified colleague of mine. You should be receiving the details in the post soon. I want to impress upon you the importance of this, Lara. As executor of the estate, it is my duty to see that it is left in capable hands. And if I may be blunt, you're acting like your father when he was at his worst. He nearly lost the manor himself in those days. I'd hate for you to repeat his mistakes. I encourage you to embrace the help I'm offering. Sincerely, your uncle.
A subtle threat. Atlas de Mornay. My uncle's first attempt at trying to cut me off from the manor. It backfired, though. I wasn't as crazy as he believed. So this talks about Lara, or them wanting Lara to see a therapist, which does actually happen. In the main game, you can actually hear the therapy sessions that took place. But of course, Anna, being part of Trinity, she had the recordings so that she could actually listen to them, and then she makes her own comments on them. But that's all something that we covered in the main game for this phase.
Hey, Jonah. Sorry for not getting back to you sooner. I've decided to do some research at the manor. A lot has happened, and I need some time to think about what I want to do next. This old place is filled with memories and secrets. Uncle Atlas has tried to keep me out of here for so long I don't even know if I want to keep it. But after everything that's happened, maybe I can find out what it still means to me. If it's worth fighting him for, I'll let you know how things worked out when I'm back in London.
A message to Jonah. Messages. I hope Jonah doesn't worry about me too much. We haven't talked since I left for Syria. This is one of these things where there's things in this DLC that make it seem like it's set before the ending of the main game. Then there's things that make it seem like it's set after the main game story. So I've always done this content when I do it after the main game. But this is one of those examples where it's like, is the DLC supposed to be after or during or before or what? Because like in the main game we see Lara before she goes to Syria. No, we see her before she goes to Siberia, and we see her go to Syria and all that kind of stuff. So here it mentions that we haven't talked since I left for Syria, which puts this DLC in the main game somewhere else. But then there's that thing with the tomb, the Prophet's tomb. Although that's in Syria, so I don't know. But yeah, I just like to do this after the main game anyway. Just makes it easier. Oh, and yeah, about leaving the memory during a memory string. The game doesn't let you. You tried once and they completely removed the option. There you go, Anasune, yeah. Yeah, I understand why they do it sometimes, but at the same time, it is good to be able to just go, right, if this content takes place during this point in the story, then let us actually have the option at least to branch out of where we're up to in the story before that DLC takes place, then do the DLC, and then when that's finished, get back to the actual main story as well. The only way you could obviously do it is if you took the footage of the Da Vinci disappearance and then you basically did a video where you had all the stuff leading up until that DLC content takes place, and then have the DLC content happen, and then edit the rest of the main story into the video after that point as well.
Got to remember to pack this for my next trip.
Flashlight.
Should be able to explore the dark now.
The flashlight will turn on automatically when entering dark areas.
Not sure. I really need to brush up on my ancestors one of these days.
What are you doing sitting there on the floor, Mistress Lara?
Looking at the compass, thinking.
What about, if I may inquire?
Just thinking about discovering faraway places, about finding adventure.
I'm sure you will, my lady. You've the soul of an explorer. But don't grow up too fast.
The offer came in the post last week, and I still haven't told Richard. He flew ahead to Tibet, where I will meet him shortly. I never told him I was submitting my work. Never thought there was a chance of being accepted. But a gallery tour is not something I can pass up. The show will take me away from England for over a year. I'll begin in New York and travel across the United States and, oh, God, I'm giddy even writing these words. When Richard and I were married, I was prepared to relegate my painting to a hobby. But it was Richard who objected, who gave me my atelier and studio. Without that support, I might still be painting boring landscapes. Now I can't shake the foolish sensation that leaving would be a betrayal. He will laugh at that and insist I accept, even though I know it will break his heart to be apart. He never once asked me to sacrifice any part of my life for his. I have, of course, in 1,000 small ways over the years, but he would never ask. The discussion can wait, and I will join him in Tibet. I won't cast a shadow over his find. I will be by his side in his triumph, as I know he will stand by my side, in time.
A life of possibilities, Amelia's journals. This is incredible. Mum was on the verge of fulfilling one of her dreams. Fate can be so cruel. Yes, so this actually takes place before the unfortunate plane crash, where Lara's mother was flying to Tibet and the plane crashed and she died by herself. Actually, that reminds me, there's something I need to do that I only just remembered. Alright, so I just remembered that there's no way to kill Lara in this DLC, so I've deactivated the Rest in Peace Lara redemption for the rest of this playthrough. But it will come back when I do my stream of Tomb Raider Chronicles Remastered this coming Wednesday. Manor Nicole, whoa, what happened to the Croft Manor? Yeah, it's just brutal what's happened. Like, friggin' roof with the hole in it. Like, that's not going to be good for, like, the carpets on the staircase. They're all sort of, like, waterlogged and everything. You'd have to rip that all up and start again and all that. Just a complete and absolute mess.
Needs a combination. It's got to be in Dad's papers somewhere. Maybe in the library. Need a combination for this lock.
Amelia, the news has reached Mother. She knows that you broke off your engagement with the Earl of Farringdon. She is beside herself with worry. But, for the moment, she's controlling the narrative. As far as anyone knows, you're just having innocent second thoughts. But the moment your affair with Lord Croft goes public, it will be too late. Our name will be as ruined as this man you've chosen to bed. Don't you see that you're being selfish, Amelia? Please, consider your family. You're a de Mornay. everything you do has a greater effect on us all. I'm coming down to London soon. Don't do anything rash until we have a chance to talk.
A brother's mourning, Atlas de Mornay. Mum was engaged to someone else. There's so much I never knew about her. Afro, take it easy. I'm just needling you. Afro, take it easy, Amelia. More like take it easy, Atlas. He's the one attacking her in this situation. It's like, don't you see that you're being selfish, Amelia? Please consider your family, which is code for put everything that you want to do that's within reason aside so that we can dictate to you the things that you are allowed to actually do, you know? How's it going, Afro? Hope things are going well.
Falling apart. Maybe I should just let my uncle have this place.
They say a good test of a relationship is how well you travel together. Well, I'd say Amelia and I have passed that test with flying colors. Indeed, these last few months in Egypt have been nothing short of extraordinary. She and Roth get on like old uni chums. In fact, the two have spent more than a few nights drinking and playing cards into the wee hours. Despite her decidedly proper upbringing, Amelia's taken to roughing it more than I ever have. She fits in and connects with the local populace with such amazing empathy. Because of her, I've had a bit of an unexpected breakthrough in my research. She managed to convince an artifact dealer in Old Town to sell me a magnificent and quite unusual Tibetan scroll. From what I can tell, it seems to contain details surrounding an immortality ritual of some sort. I think it's time for me to take the next step with Amelia. In fact, I don't think I can wait any longer. I will ask for her hand tomorrow in the bright Egyptian sun amidst the dust and ruins.
Travels together. Lord Croft's journals. I heard so many stories about that expedition. To see it from Dad's perspective makes me realize that it was Mum who made it all so memorable. As an aside too, this whole thing in this DLC where you have characters who aren't American, and so they would say mum, but in the text they have the character saying mom. It's not that I'm against the usage of that, but to me that's like an American thing, to call someone's mother a mom, not a mum. Whereas it's more like a UK and Australian thing to say mum instead. So I think because we're playing as an actual British character, that the character of Lara would be saying mum, not mom.
I'm not surprised he asked her to marry him as soon as he got the idea.
Afro, you really wonder sometimes if people like these really exist, you know? Going from ruin to ruin, exploring, finding treasure, getting chased by boulders, jumping out of planes in a floatable, like, what do they call it? The rafts that you blow up. You love these sections, especially in Uncharted 4. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the game's narrative. This is just a DLC for this game, but yeah, there's definitely similarities, I guess. Characters going through a manor or a mansion.
Amelia, I know we have had our differences in recent years. I've tried my best to keep an open mind about your relationship with Richard, but I just can't let you go on this ill-conceived expedition without saying my piece. You say Richard's theories have merit. You say that he may have actually stumbled upon some mythic, unknown truth, but I have seen nothing to support such claims. And while your word may have been enough in times past, I cannot let you squander away what remains of your name and reputation, and that of our family, truth be told, on some damned foolish crusade. I intend to go to Richard's investors and let them know exactly how he's spending their money, but I want to give you a chance to put a stop to this yourself. Please, don't go to Tibet. If not for me, at least for Lara.
A brother's plea, Atlas de Mornay. Uncle Atlas has been causing problems for my family for too long now. I'm glad Mum ignored his warnings. Afro, when they explore the house filled with ancient artifacts, like there's no way you'll ever see a house like that in real life. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a house like that up close in real life, but, I mean, maybe there are places that exist like that. Especially like these old manor homes and stuff like that.
Still just as creepy as I remember.
My lord, I hope this missive finds you on a successful expedition and in good health. Before I bore you with estate affairs, I wanted to let you know that our little angel has been into some mischief. As always, I indulged her in our usual game of chess. Over the course of the game, she broached the subject of her mother. She's having trouble remembering her now, and wanted to enter her ladyship's atelier, which you sealed off, to play on her mother's piano. It enraged her when she wasn't allowed to go in, of course. For someone so young, she has such strong emotions. Later in the day, she set a trap for me in the walk-in freezer, of all places. And before I knew what was happening, I found myself locked inside. Mrs. Sheffield discovered me an hour later, shivering and somewhat peeved. It took us an additional hour to find Lara in the grounds. I know all her hiding places, of course, but this time she really did not want to be found. Call it years of observation, but I can tell when she's out of sorts. My lord, if I may be so bold, she misses you fiercely. She is lonely for her father. Please consider a call as soon as you are able.
Little angel, Winston. Oh, poor Winston. I remember doing that to him. I can't believe I was such a little brat. Thank goodness he had such patience with me. So there we go. That's the reference to the old school Tomb Raider games, Tomb Raider 2 and 3 specifically, where in the manor you could actually lock Winston into the walk-in freezer.
Poor Winston. I remember being so angry. He was always so patient with me.
King to Queen 1. I'm going to win this time, Winston.
Clever girl. But you should know by now, winning isn't everything. Queen to King's Bishop 6. Check.
Easy for you to say. You always win. Knight takes Queen.
What I mean to say is try to enjoy the journey, Lara. Don't rush to victory. Bishop to King 7.
I know, Winston. I just want... Oh no! I didn't even see that!
You should also know by now, I'm not to be trifled with on this board, young lady. Mate.
Oh, I am going to win. Someday.
I would play chess with our old butler Winston on this board. Never could beat him. I always chose white. Maybe if I let him go first once in a while, I might have won.
Hey there, Lucas. Lara, little brat. That's true. Locking Winston in the freezer when she was a child. It's so funny. I like that reference back to the old games.
I'm at a crossroads now. Good Lord, that's such a cliche. But there's truth in it. 2 roads before me. Both present joy and compromise. A life with Richard, adventure, intellectual pursuit, perhaps a new family. But also a man obsessed with something I cannot understand. Or a life of obligation, upholding the de Mornay name, embracing our traditions, not losing the family that raised me. Oh, this really is a rubbish choice. I don't want to lose them, but I love the life I've started to build with Richard. He comes with his own difficulties, but I can accept them. Will it be enough?
Decisions, Amelia's journals. For the time she was with us, I hope it was enough. I hope it was worth it. The thing about what happened to Lara's mother in this version of Lara Croft is that, you know, it was a tragedy. It was something that wasn't the fault of anyone. It was just one of those things where the timing of taking the flight and what caused the plane crash happening on that particular moment, causing the plane to crash and then Amelia dying. And then you have her father who also dies, whereas in that it was a choice that was made by Dominguez that we don't meet in Rise of the Tomb Raider, but we meet in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because he didn't want Richard revealing the location of Paititi to the world. So he had Lara, he had Lara's father killed as well. So there's 2 different tragedies. The one with her mother was, you know, something that was just some freak of nature, freak accident crash, whereas the other was a purposeful eradication of someone.
Everything is almost ready for Mistress Lara's birthday expedition surprise. It's been a bit of an all-hands-on-deck effort organizing the affair and keeping it secret. She's obsessed with Egypt, memorizing hieroglyphs and ancient Egyptian districts, so she'll be delighted with what Lord Croft has come up with. This will be good for her. She's been acting up of late, but I know she's just craving more of her father's attention. He's been so buried in his research. It'll be a nice moment for the 2 of them to reconnect. And I do believe he needs it as much as she does.
Birthday expedition, Winston. It really was one of the best birthdays I ever had.
Dad loved a good bottle of wine. I can still smell his favorite Bordeaux.
This is it! The basement of despair!
Indeed, Lara. Muster your courage, for this is the only path to the Library of Infinite Knowledge.
Look there! See the string?
An ancient Egyptian tripwire. The Keepers of Knowledge want none to disturb their treasures. We must tread carefully.
Let me lead. I know how to spot all the traps.
I'm sure you do, my darling. Lead on!
So funny. My grandparents had a house that was built off the ground. It wasn't like high up off the ground, but just high enough that if you wanted to actually go underneath it, you had to actually crawl. So you can imagine as a 5-year-old going under that house, I had a lot of fun times ducking under and exploring. Even as a kid, I had to crouch to actually go in under there. So whenever I play this always reminds me of that. I remember seeing, like, you know, gourds hanging from the top of the roof. Well, it's not the roof, but the top part of whatever's above your head when you're under something.
One of the wire traps Winston made for my birthday expedition. Winston used my hair ribbons to make this. He and Dad put a lot of work into this birthday surprise.
Lucas, in other words, Dad was an alcoholic. I guess, yeah. But then again, I don't know his drinking routine. If he started like early in the morning and kept drinking all through the day and all through the night till passing out.
Water damage from the main hall above. My stuffed bear. I couldn't have a tomb without a mummy.
Lucas, where are we? So this is actually Lara Croft's mansion. And in this version of Tomb Raider, it's under threat of being taken away from Lara by her uncle, who doesn't approve of Lara's adventuring ways. And he sees her squandering the money of her parents' estate. So he wants to basically give her an ultimatum. And also, Lara's mother, when she died, there wasn't an actual official declaration of her death, and so her uncle is using that as a way to force Lara to give up the mansion.
This bust of Anubis was from Dad's Egyptian collection. He must have put it down in the basement for our little expedition.
Ancient Anubis bust, Immortality Collection. Lucas, so her uncle got greedy. Yeah, greed, but also hatred and resentment for Lara's father, and also for his sister abandoning her family to marry Richard Croft, Lara's father, and daring to want to live her own life, and also being resentful of the fact that Richard went around or behind his back and basically created a tomb. Like, we haven't found it yet in this DLC, but created a mausoleum for Lara's mother's, like, not her body, I don't think, was recovered, but like a tomb. There's probably some jealousy from his side of things towards his sister as well, because she was able to go and live her own life the way that she wanted to, whereas because he felt that she needed to be obligated to the family, like he's obligated to the family, that probably on some level he was jealous of his sister being able to actually go and, you know, live her life the way that she wanted to, whereas he probably felt that he had to uphold the family traditions and all that kind of stuff. And so when his sister decided to rebel against that, he was like, you know, can't have that. You're destroying our family name. How dare you want to live your life the way you want to live it? Lucas, dare you say, are we going to raid the tomb? Well, there's no actual tomb, necessarily. Although I guess the mausoleum could be a tomb, maybe. But yeah, that's what we'll be getting to as well. Getting to that part. This DLC is relatively short. Even shorter if you just basically go to where you need to go to do the objectives, whereas I'm actually collecting everything.
Plans for adding electricity to the manor. Dad used to say his granny hated all the bright lights. There's a missing page.
When they adapted the 2013 Tomb Raider game for the 2018 movie, they also brought some plot elements from Rise of the Tomb Raider over. One of them was the fact that Lara had a stepmother named Anna, who turns out to be part of Trinity. They carried that over into that adaptation. But also, Richard had created a secret hidden area for the mansion to house some artifacts and all that kind of stuff as well, which is something that Lara finds out in the 2018 movie.
Amelia left tonight. She packed her suitcase and walked right out of here, and I didn't even notice. Like those days in the Oxford Library before we even met. I just had my nose in a book, lost in my own world. I am such a fool. I have let my obsession with this damned ritual of long life rule my better judgment for far too long, and it may already be too late. How could I have not seen this coming? I've made this mistake over and over, always putting my research before my personal life. But it's never hurt like this before. I simply cannot live without her. If I have to give up this accursed quest that has plagued me for so long, then so be it. I am going after her, right now, tonight.
Cracks in the Foundation. Lord Croft's journals. It was almost over before it started. I always admired Dad's ability to recognize when he was wrong.
Okay, Dad's ledger has to be in here somewhere. Hopefully it has the combination to the safe.
I've created a clever little map for Lara's birthday expedition. I used the invisible ink Amelia picked up for me in Morocco so many years ago. At the time, I remember being so annoyed by that rather aggressive street vendor, but she just smiled in her sunny way and paid him without a second thought. I assumed it was just a tourist scam, but it actually works. Turns out it requires a very specific kind of vellum and a heat source to illuminate the ink after it's dried. It should prove a nice challenge for Lara to puzzle out.
Invisible ink. Lord Croft's journals. Dad put so much work into that birthday expedition. Hey there, Keone. How's things going? Lucas, you're going to tell me that you saw the AC movie on HBO. Oh, cool, Lucas. So what'd you think of the movie?
Need something to light this. This picture was taken in the library. 1820 additions to the main hall in progress.
Oh, I see, Lucas. Sorry. When you said you saw the AC movie on HBO, I thought you meant like you actually watched it. But I see what you mean now. You just saw it was on there.
I remember this now. Each district in ancient Egypt had a symbol and a number. I always preferred these symbols to the actual number hieroglyphs.
Now, let me see. These two myths are referencing the same source material. But where did I see this image?
Dad, I think it's this one, in the chapter on Egyptian districts.
Why, yes, I think you're right, Lara.
I remember the page with the illustration of Ra.
My goodness, you've been paying attention, haven't you? This could be an important breakthrough.
Does this mean I'm your research assistant?
That and more, my darling girl.
Takes me back. Those were good times. The best times. This was always one of my favorite books in this library. I used to trace hieroglyphs.
The Eye of Horus.
I've reached the monastery. As Roth predicted, it was hidden deep in the Himalayas, and now that I'm standing on these high stone walls, I am overwhelmed by the sheer beauty of the mountains that surround me. It is simply breathtaking. But what adds to their spiritual majesty is the truth of this place. The monks welcomed me, as is their way, but they seemed to expect me. They must have known someone like me would eventually come seeking answers. I know this is the place. They've conducted the ritual before. I have seen the evidence, the distinctive symbols carved into the floors, the art displayed on the inner chamber's walls. They've created the elixir before, and they will again if I can convince them. I sent Amelia a message straight away. I want her by my side for this discovery.
Dad never told me about this myth. Why was he so sure? What did he find that convinced him it was real?
Dad was looking for an elixir. Was it the elixir of life?
For God's sake, memorize the combination, you fool. Lara's expedition treasure, my favorite painting by Amelia, the day of our wedding anniversary.
Clues. Safe combination clues. Dad would never have written down the combination, but it looks like he left himself clues to remember the numbers.
Okay, got to find those objects to figure out the combination to the safe. There's something else here. Dad's lighter. I don't remember him ever using it, though.
Old lighter. Gear. Dad's lighter. I don't remember him ever using it, though.
The Croft family crest and initials BC. I wonder if this belonged to my grandfather.
Whoops, I didn't show it in full.
Dad's lighter. I don't remember him ever using it, though.
New gear acquired. Lighter.
Okay, should be able to light the fireplace now.
Press and hold square when near fireplaces throughout the manor to light them.
This is my handiwork. I used to love drawing pictures of tigers.
This picture is drawn in a bigger size in Shadow of the Tomb Raider in the flashback scene when Lara is climbing the outside of the mansion.
Spent so many hours in here, reading, dreaming of my own adventures. Took quite a tumble off of this old thing when I was a girl. Still feel it in the shoulder from time to time. It appears Sir Reginald's helmet fell off. Or didn't I put it back properly?
For Sir Reginald. Here we have another reference to classic Tomb Raider. The music from the Venice level in Tomb Raider 2, but also the music that you can play when you're in Lara's mansion in Tomb Raider 2. So we're going to play this and listen to it.
This music is familiar. It's beautiful.
I always accepted that Richard's rather unorthodox research was just something I had to live with. But this time, the thrill of discovery has taken hold of me. I never imagined I could be drawn in this way. Richard cabled to tell me he's found the monastery. The symbol we deciphered in the scroll was the key to its location. I don't know if I honestly believe that this will lead to the fabled elixir of life, but I can't help but feel that a great secret awaits us there. My brother was threatening to shut down the expedition, but I managed to talk him down for the time being. Now I am going to meet Richard. I would bring Lara if I could, but she's still too young. She'll be in good hands with Winston, and when we return, her parents might just be a bit more famous.
The journey, Amelia's journals. She was beginning to believe. It must have made Dad so happy to know she could accept his wild ideas.
Blank, except for the image of a key. I remember this map now. It leads to the master key, but we made it with a special kind of invisible ink. It could only be seen with the heat of a fire. I can see the map. Looks like the key is hidden under a trunk near the bookcase. X marks the spot, as they say.
X marks the spot. I remember in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, he's giving a lecture to his students, and he's talking about how X never, ever marks the spot. And then later in the movie, when he's actually trying to find the hidden entrance to the catacombs, where is the opening to the hidden entrance? It's under the Roman numeral X for 10.
The master key. This should get me into the West Wing.
But they were all of them deceived, for another key was made. A master key to rule all others.
All right. This should open most rooms in the manor, including the Forbidden West Wing.
Master key. Press square when nearby locked doors and chests to open them.
The Pharaoh's crown from my birthday treasure hunt. How old was I again? 6? 8? I think this hieroglyph corresponds to a number, but which one? Okay, Dad's clues mention Mum's paintings and their anniversary. Hopefully I can find some answers in the West Wing. Need to search the rest of the manor for the clues to the combination. Need to search the rest of the manor for the clues to the combination.
Mistress Lara, I took the liberty of preparing a tray, as dinner did not go according to plans. I've included, in addition to your meal, a few treats. I would appreciate it if you kept this between us, but I felt tonight called for something special. If you will forgive me the indulgence, your rapid exit from the dinner table had me concerned, and I wanted to impart something that I hope sets your mind at ease. I have known your father for quite some time. There is an intensity to his passion that can be frightening, but I recognize that same passion in you. You're more like him than you know. Never doubt that he loves you more than his research, more than his artifacts, more than anything in this world. Storms pass, and tomorrow will be clear and blue again. When you have finished, please leave the tray outside. Be well. Yours, Winston.
Storms pass. Winston. I don't even remember this letter. I'm sure I wasn't able to read it at the time. Did he write this more for himself than me?
The Croft family crest. Worse than I thought.
With Amelia gone, the manor is a different place. A dimness pervades, a quiet I can't stand. Even though Lara is too young to understand what has happened, she also senses the change. She's asked after her mother only once, and I'm afraid my reaction must have terrified her. I will need Winston more than ever these next few months to help look after her. I never quite realized how much grief can consume a man, but I am utterly consumed. I know I can't escape the pain, but I will try my damnedest to avoid it. I will seal the West Wing for as long as I live in this place. It will remain exactly as Amelia left it. Perhaps someday Lara can find her own answers there.
Consumed by grief, Lord Croft's journals. Dad was right, I could sense the change, and now I'm going to find my own answers. Rise of the Answer Finder.
I believe it took this trip to push me over the edge. I've been able to see Richard in his element, seeing him at his best and his worst. I've experienced the purity and chaos of his passion, and I came to realize I want his passion in my life every day. So it's done. Richard wanted to wait another 4 days until my birthday, but I wouldn't have it. Once I make a decision, I prefer to get on with it. So we found a small chapel in Luxor that was just right. And with Roth and the others at our side, we married as the sun set over this remarkable land. Mother will never forgive me. Atlas will forever resent me. But I don't care anymore. I'm free of de Mornay obligations, free to pursue my own passions and live my life surrounded by those who will encourage and challenge me. I'm excited for the future, whatever it may bring. Tomorrow, Richard and I return home to London as the Crofts, forging our path together.
An unlikely union, safe combination clues. Marrying in Luxor was Mum's idea. I never knew. I'm lucky to have this glimpse of her so many years later.
Over 120 years ago, two brothers announced they could fly. Turns out they were right.
Very clever, Dr. Darling. Nice pun there. Don't know how many people will get that, but thank you very much for deeming that as a Bane impression.
Amelia would not have approved. That alone should have been the end of it. But I am, as God made me, a stubborn fool. I locked all the West Wing's doors, and I shall not open them again until either my life or my obstinacy comes to an end. The night before, Roth told me I would someday change my mind. Like a broken arm cast in plaster, he said. The wound would heal, and we would someday shed the bandages to be whole again. The metaphor made me furious. The clumsy way he cast our loss off as nothing more than an inconvenience. There is wisdom in his rough words, but I've done what I must. Perhaps one day, Lara will throw back the doors to let the sun shine in again. Maybe she will find her own sense of peace in this place.
Stopping time, Lord Croft's journals. I know Dad couldn't deal with what happened, but it's time to open up the West Wing again. It's time to move on. Hey there, Octavius. I'm doing good, thanks. How about yourself? How's your day going? I asked my wife what she wanted for her birthday. She said, nothing would make me happier than a diamond necklace. So, I got her nothing. Thank you for redeeming that as an Arnie impression, Dr. Darling. That's a classic one.
At least that old thing still works.
I am bursting with pride. Amelia is with child. It is amazing how everything in life can change with such a simple event. Obviously, we don't know the gender, but already we've discussed possible names. Perhaps Benjamin, after my grandfather, or maybe Griffin. He was more infamous at Croft than even me. No, Amelia wouldn't have it. Besides, she's certain it's a girl. She favors a classic such as Scarlet or Kate, though I've made some headway with Lara. A subtle nod to the sun god Ra, and our days in Egypt, where certainly this child was conceived. I find myself thinking about this new life we've created, of how much she might be like us. For all my research into myths of immortality, I may have ignored the most obvious answer to the questions that plague me. We live on through our progeny, our genes, DNA, experiences passed through the generations. Perhaps this is the simple truth of eternal life, and I've just been too stubborn to accept it.
A new Croft. Lord Croft's journals. In a way, Dad found the secret of immortality and didn't even realize it, and I'm glad they went with Lara. I like the reasoning for the name Lara. A subtle nod to the sun god Ra. La-Ra. Like you would say Ta-Ra, not Torah. Laura, Torah, Tara, Lara. That's the difference between Lara and Laura.
Dad may have discovered the secret to immortality without even knowing it. Mum's wedding ring. I always wondered what happened to it. The inscription is faded. I remember this. Dad gave it to Mum on her birthday. October 13th, Mum's birthday. Pretty sure my parents were married in October. I think it was close to her birthday. Mum, on her wedding day, she looks so beautiful. There's a date, October something. Damn, the number is faded. Their anniversary was in October, but which day? I can't believe I don't know this. There's got to be another clue somewhere. My mother's perfume. The smell. So familiar. I can almost remember her. This is Dad. I suppose it's a family tradition, but I can't imagine having one of these made of me.
Dr. Darling, woke up with your entire upper back hurting, so you decided to spend the entire day in bed. So sorry to hear about that your back is like that. I don't blame you, though. You know, it's good not to aggravate things, you know, like, because even small movements doing certain things might actually, you know, make it worse and stuff. But I really hope you get some relief. Hope you've got something that you can actually take for the pain as well, and hopefully it's a short-term thing as well.
After everything Atlas has done, how could you tell him about the expedition?
It's just all been too much. I needed to talk to someone. He's still my brother.
I don't trust him.
You don't have to, Richard, but please, trust me.
I'm sorry, my dear, but I know him. He'll take it to the papers. The investors will pull out.
Then go. Without me. Tonight. I will take care of Atlas. And then meet you in Tibet next week.
I was so young, but I still remember that terrible argument. It wasn't always an easy road for my parents.
Dr. Darling, in 3 years, this is the first time that I played this DLC. That actually is a good point. I can't remember the last time I actually did, because in 2023, that's when I started to export my VODs to YouTube. But I can't remember before 2023 what years I did the DLC as part of playthroughs and stuff. Because I don't do it for every playthrough. Don't do it for every annual playthrough either, as well. But, yeah, it was probably older than 3 years ago that I actually did this content last time, I think, maybe.
I think this was Dad's pocket watch. Looks like it stopped precisely at midnight. Okay, Lara, keep it together. You're starting to see things. Mum's atelier. Dad sealed it soon after she died. He probably couldn't bear the idea of removing any of her belongings.
My lord, we all hope your work was well received at the conference and look forward to your return. As is so often the case with these missives, I wanted to call your attention to an incident involving our little angel. It seems that Lara has been the subject of some ridicule amongst the other girls at school. From what I can gather, some of the other young ladies were teasing her for being too much of a tomboy. You know how Lara can get when pushed into a corner. Let's just say they won't be bothering her again. But I do think their words have had an effect. I believe Lara has been missing her mother lately. She's begun to worry that she isn't like the other girls. And having grown up with only a father, it shouldn't come as a surprise that she has trouble relating to them. I wonder if this new friend of yours, Anna, is it? Perhaps she might prove a welcome influence. It might be worth bringing her to the manor to meet Lara. In any case, I'll let you decide the proper time to do that. Please travel home safely. Yours, Winston.
Concern, Winston. Oh, Winston, he really did look out for me.
Untouched for years, exactly as she left it.
I stood up to my family's criticism, stood in defense of Richard and our love. But as my new life began in Croft Manor, doubt set in. How could love flourish in these cavernous halls and endless passageways? Had I made a terrible mistake? I have never been more delighted to be wrong. Richard welcomed me to the manor, my new home, with a game. It was a clue, written in jumbled words from 5 different languages, but it pointed the way forward. The next clue was a seemingly blank piece of parchment in the kitchen, where the heat of a candle revealed a message written in lemon juice. I followed each step, grinning like a child as I solved his riddles and chased the trail to its end. a white cloth stretched out on the lawn where a picnic was laid out. We laughed and ate, and my doubt vanished with the last of the morning mist. Love can and will endure.
Games we played, Amelia's journals. Good job, Dad. You knew how hard this decision was for her, and you made it easy.
I don't have any memory of this. I wish I could remember doing this. Mum died too young. Mum with me as a baby. I've never seen this. Hard to believe I was ever that small. Mum's paintings. Which one was Dad's favorite?
You've almost got it, darling. Here, let me show you. Like this, see? Well done, Lara. Well done.
I wonder how my life would have been different had she lived.
I like how in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Lara gets
There
presented.
has to be something in Mum's atelier that I missed.
I like how in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that Lara gets a chance to actually make things go back to how they were, or recreate the world in the way that she would like to, bringing back all the people who had died, bringing them back to life, but she ultimately refuses and sacrifices the power of the sun back to the sun.
Need to search the rest of the manor for the clues to the combination.
Alright, so she just keeps saying that now. That's fair enough.
I returned home this afternoon to collect the last of my paintings. I suppose I should say I returned to my family's home. Atlas was there, in one of his foul moods, and even as he dripped venom for Richard with his cruel barbs, I could only laugh. To think that I once listened to my bitter brother in matters of my own happiness. My dismissal only served to infuriate him more. I left him there in Father's study, muttering to himself. On the drive back, as Winston took a longer route through the country, I looked through my paintings, Richard's favourite one among them, a simple abstract with blocks of red. I smiled, thinking about giving it to him. I was happy, and I was going home.
Moving in, safe combination clues. It must have been so hard for her to give up her family.
Okay, back to the study to open that safe.
Lara arrived tonight, though not without a bit of drama, but all is well. She's a healthy, beautiful baby. I've never seen Richard so happy. I'm sure he'll be celebrating with his favourite whiskey tonight. It's calm and peaceful now. Just the gentle sound of the rain and the small, sleeping breaths of this new life I hold in my arms. Lara Croft, my darling daughter. It's hard to put into words this feeling I have. We share a connection, something I never expected. A love so powerful and pure. Someday you'll feel it too. No matter where you go or where you find your place in this world, we will always have this connection.
A new love, Amelia's journals. I still feel that connection to you, Mum.
This was for a show in London of Mum's work. What I wouldn't give to see this today. It says here, Amelia Croft plans to show her work in New York. I wonder what happened with that. I'm glad I still have so much of Mum's work.
Dad, what do you keep in there?
Nothing too important, Lara. Estate business and such.
If it's not important, then why bother putting it in a safe?
I should know better than to try and pull one over on you. There is something important in here. And it's for you, should you need it someday.
Well, let's hope you came through for me, Dad. Okay, found all the clues. Let's see if I can figure this out. No, that's not it. That worked. It makes me happy to know that Dad kept this safe. No, that's not what I'm looking for.
I am numb. It is taking all my willpower to hold back the overwhelming grief. Amelia's plane crashed in the mountains. She died alone in the snow, waiting for me to find her. Oh God, not her, not now. I cannot accept it. Life without her is too painful to imagine. I know what must be done, and I am resolved. I'm going to bring her back. Perhaps this is why I am here. Perhaps this is fate, a test of my faith in the truth I've sought for so long. Roth will fight me on this, but I can't face Lara. I can't look into her eyes unless I try. I must try to bring Amelia back. The monks are preparing the elixir now. and then we will see if all my years of hunting this truth was for naught.
Broken. Lord Croft's journals. Dad, oh no, what did you do?
Dad, what did you do? Dad's sequel to his first book on immortality. He never got a chance to publish it. Handwritten. This is the only copy. Damn, this isn't it either. I was certain there had to be a will in here. Wait, what's that? A blank page. Dad must have left this for me. It has to be important. A hidden message. What are these strange marks? They have to be some kind of clue. That worked.
This is the plot element from Rise of the Tomb Raider that I was talking about earlier that they put into the adaptation of the previous game to this one. Lara's father having made a secret area in the mansion.
Damn, locked in. Did Dad build all of this just to keep his research safe?
The renovations are proceeding in secret. The work crew Roth hired for the job have been paid handsomely to keep the details of the job out of the records, so I'm fairly confident no word will get out about what I'm doing. I've been careless with presenting my findings, attracting all the wrong sorts of attention. Roth thinks I'm being paranoid by building this secret vault, but I know I'm being watched. My work is too important, and potentially too dangerous. It can't fall into the wrong hands. I need a secure place to keep it all safe.
Keeping secrets, Lord Croft's journals. Dad must have seemed paranoid to Roth, but I understand why he built this vault.
The missing page from the renovation plans. They didn't want anyone outside the family knowing about this crypt.
My love. It is silent, so peacefully silent now. Even after the madness and chaos of the crash, I can't help but still wonder at the beauty of these mountains. I understand the magic that drew you here. Please know that I feel no pain in this moment, only immense sadness. Sadness that I couldn't see your smiling face once more. That I'll never meet the wonderful woman that our daughter will become. There is so much to say, but I'm tired. The sun is setting. The cold of night will overwhelm me. I know I will fall asleep soon, and likely never again awaken in this world. I'm scared. Richard, what lies beyond? You know I've always struggled with faith, so I'm holding on to yours for now. I'm holding on as best I can, my love. Become the father Lara deserves. Know that I will live on in her.
Facing death, Amelia's journals. I can't imagine what Dad felt reading this letter from Mum. I can barely read it without bursting into tears. I hope he came to eventually see Amelia in me.
Mum faced death alone. She was so brave.
So that plane crash that happens in the original version of the Tomb Raider series, the crash in the Himalayas actually happens to Lara herself. It's the thing that actually is the catalyst for Lara becoming who she becomes in the original continuity. Through that crash, through having to survive the elements, she learns the strength that she has within herself, and also the thrill of adventure and danger and all that kind of stuff as well. In the trilogy of Tomb Raider Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, at the start of Legend, it shows Lara and her mother in a plane which crashes in the Himalayas. So it's a common sort of like theme that runs through each version of Tomb Raider, where there's a plane crash in the Himalayas and it's the catalyst for something happening. So in the original continuity, it's the catalyst for Lara becoming the strong, independent survivalist that she becomes. And then in the other trilogy of games, Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, it's the thing that spurns Lara on to look for ancient artifacts and stuff around the world, because she's trying to find out what happened to her mother. And then in this reboot trilogy, it's the plane crash that basically makes the separation happen between Lara's father and mother, and of course sets the stage for several different things that happen, one of which is Richard Croft becoming even more obsessed with myths about immortality, and also about Trinity getting more involved in the life of the Crofts as well, and all that kind of stuff.
Dad's Tibetan scroll. I remember he used to pore over this late into the night.
It's over. I have done all that I could, and my Amelia is still cold and dead. Roth first scowled at my designs. Then he pleaded with me not to go through with the ritual. Not because he feared it might work, but because he feared what I might do when it failed. And it has failed. There is no doubt in that. I prepared everything according to my research. When I dropped the stone into the elixir and held it to her lips, I thought for the barest moment that it had worked. The hour was midnight, and my pocket watch stopped inexplicably. There was a charge in the air like the moment before a lightning strike. For a heartbeat, I imagined that my life was being drawn from me, as one empties a glass in order to be poured back into Amelia. I would have welcomed death if the last thing I saw were her eyes, clear and alive again. But the moment passed. Amelia is still dead, and I was no Orpheus. We will return to the manor and lay her to rest. I owe her that much.
The ritual, Lord Croft's journals. Oh, Dad, part of me wishes you had succeeded.
You brought her home. She's here, somewhere.
And here we have another reference to classic Tomb Raider.
This was part of a set of statues Dad found in China. He thought it was linked to the Temple of Xian. Perhaps I should look into it someday.
The Temple of Xian, that houses the dagger of Xian, that in Tomb Raider 2 from 1997 is the artifact that Lara's after. When someone stabs themselves in the chest with that dagger, they actually become a dragon, and the only way to destroy the person who's become a dragon is to pull the dagger out of the dragon, and then that way the person who was the dragon dies. And what I like about this is that it sets up the potential for the events of the Tomb Raider 2 game to be done in this reboot continuity. Yeah, Keone, I love references like this. So we had the entry from Winston talking about how Lara locked him into the walk-in freezer, which is a reference to what you can do in Tomb Raider 2 and Tomb Raider 3. And then you had the music that you can play, which can be played in Lara's mansion, and also is in Tomb Raider 2 in the Venice levels. And then we have this statue here, referencing the Temple of Xian from Tomb Raider 2.
Richard, I tried to see you in person last week, but your manservant hustled me away like some common tout peddling silverware. He told me you are heartbroken and you're not yet ready to see visitors. He told me you blame yourself for your loss. Well, to that, I say you had damn well better. I hope it hurts. I hope every moment of your life from this day forward is a ringing echo of loss. I hope you live just long enough to feel that pain grow when you hoped it would diminish, because you earned it. You stole Amelia from us. You ruined her reputation and poisoned her mind with a fantasy for children. In the end, you might as well have choked the life from her with your own hands. Do not contact me again, ever. But you must make arrangements for the future of your daughter. Have you considered perhaps it would be better if you followed Amelia sooner rather than later? As Lara's legal guardian, perhaps I could erase some of the damage you've already done to the poor girl. If not, I will do everything in my power to see to it that the Croft name is forgotten. Lara deserves better than you. So did Amelia. And so do we all. Atlas.
Blame, Atlas de Mornay. Uncle Atlas won't stop until the Croft name is ruined. I have to find a way to get him out of my life.
Dad's collected knowledge. There must be so many secrets hidden in here. There's an inscription. This is the Croft universe. Our knowledge is to the east, our respite to the west. Our future is to the south, our past is to the north.
I like how it says our future is to the south and our past is to the north. Generally speaking, when you think of north, you're thinking of going upwards and south going downwards. And if you think about the flow of time, you would assume that north would represent the future and that south would represent the past. But I like the inversion there to make it that the south is actually the future and that the north is to the past, because it implies the whole idea about archaeology as well, where it's like you're in a future time period, but you're moving forward to the past to go to these places to look up about things that have happened before as well.
Our past to the north. Could there be something else beneath the manor? Might be able to use this to access other parts of the manor.
Crowbar, a classic Tomb Raider item. So I guess this is another reference to classic Tomb Raider as well, because in several of the games Lara has a crowbar. Crowbar. The crowbar can be used to pry open various objects and doors throughout the manor.
Amazing. Even in here, Dad went out of his way to hide his findings.
Hi, Dad. So I know I only just returned to school, but when can I come out to the dig site again? It's just so boring here. We're doing all the stuff I already read last summer. I always end up staring out the window and thinking about our expeditions, and then I'm yelled at for daydreaming. I promise I'll be good and not disturb you and just work wherever you tell me. I just miss it, Dad. And I miss you.
A letter to Dad. Messages. I don't remember writing this. I do remember being bored in school though. Yep, I could definitely relate to that. That's how I felt about being in school too.
Lord Croft is resolved to seal the west wing of the manor. I try to talk sense into him, but he will not be swayed. And to make matters worse, I believe his experiences in Tibet have only further fueled the fire of his obsession. He's now up at all hours in his study, researching God knows what. And poor Lara, she is so confused. Too young to understand the tragedy that has befallen this great house. My dearest hope is that Lord Croft will emerge from his grief and embrace fatherhood and the love of his daughter. But I fear he may give in to his obsessive nature, that which Lady Amelia tempered in him so well. In any case, I will be a rock for young Lara. She will never sense tragedy and sorrow in me, only the love and support she deserves.
Respectful duty, Winston. Winston was my rock, always had a smile on his face, never letting on that something was wrong.
Our knowledge is to the east, our respite to the west. Our future is to the south, our past is to the north. Incredible. This crypt was here all along.
I expected a sort of crushing finality to grip me when we returned to the manor to lay Amelia to rest. Indeed, once the last of my funereal duties were performed, I fully believed that I would crumple to the ground next to her and expire, not from grief, but succumbing to the terrible exhaustion of the last few weeks. Instead, as the mausoleum stones slid into place, I felt a sort of peace and energy, one that I confess caught me entirely off guard. This was not the terminus of our story, and I was a fool to think so. Her body may be gone, but her spirit still resides here, in the manor, in me, in Lara. Her soul is forever twined with mine, and death is just a momentary interruption. I walked out of that cold quiet into a sunlight that burned my eyes, and I have never been more sure. Death is not the end, and there is work yet to do.
The return, Lord Croft's journals. This is where it all started, our family obsession. Well, now it's time for me to complete our work. The idea of having like a crypt in the mansion, that also gets used in the movie adaptation of the 2013 game, the one that this game is a sequel to.
My God, can it be? Dad, you did bring her home.
Hey Biko, doing good, thank you. Working on the final component for my Phase 1 playthrough for celebrating this game's 10th anniversary. We're doing the Blood Ties DLC, so once this part is done, that'll be Phase 1 completed, and then at a later date this year I'll do another phase. But yeah, it's going well, things are going good. How about yourself?
My dearest Lara, it is difficult to write this, knowing these may only ever be words on a page to you. I wonder if you will remember my voice. Will you remember the way we used to play and laugh? Will you remember me comforting you when you were sad? Know that I'm still with you, Lara. My energy, my love, it's within you. It always will be. Use that energy to pursue your passions in life. Never let others determine your journey. You become who you are through your choices, through the love you give and the promises you keep. I hope you are happy, that you are loved and successful in whatever it is you choose to do. I am proud of you, my darling. Remember me, with all my love, your mother.
But wait, there's more.
What's this? A letter.
2 days later. Additional relics. Additional relics have become available in the manor. A letter? For me? Biko, nice long stream yesterday. You were busy filling in your Dunmer Dark Elf house in Elder Scrolls Online yesterday. You got hooked on that, really into Elder Scrolls Online these days. You love Dark Elves, they're not as snobbish as High Elves. Oh yeah, Biko. Well, that's good. Sounds like you had a great time with it. I don't blame you though too. Sometimes you just get hooked on things and then time goes and you're like, holy crap, hours have passed by. Yeah, it definitely was a long stream yesterday. I ended up finishing the stream about 4 a.m. my time, which was actually today. It's 8:04 p.m. now. That's the thing about staying up late and streaming, starting one day and then going through until the next day. The time manipulation.
Lara, I have received the notarized affidavit confirming Amelia's grave and the discovery of the burial crypt within the manor premises. While I can't fathom why your father would hide your mother's fate from her own family, I cannot deny that any legal claims I may have had on the estate are now null and void. Croft Manor and the remainder of your father's assets are now yours in perpetuity to do with as you wish. If there comes a time when you require assistance in managing the estate, I hope you will consider contacting me to retain my services. Sincerely, your uncle.
Capitulation, Atlas de Mornay. Not sure about his offer, we'll see what the future brings. Nice one, Dr. Darling. Rod Vampire Legion. Biko, never been comfortable with doing housing ever. You always get pissed off with alignment or don't like the furnishings in the end, but it looks amazing so far. Probably going to ask your dad for a Necrom furnishing pack for your birthday. Oh yeah. It's so funny. It makes me think of The Sims whenever I played any Sims games, once the place was created and all that, I was like, yep, I'm done with the game, now to play something else. Because I never found the other aspects of it any fun or interesting. The whole, having to manage them all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, I just want to actually, build the house and then move the stuff around and then call it a day and create the family and then be like, boom, done. Hey, Deadly Vulture, how many years after is this? After the 2013 Tomb Raider? It's not too long after the events of the 2013 game. I don't know how long, though, but it's definitely not... I wouldn't say it's more than 2 years. It might be like maybe 1 year, 1.5, maybe 2. Beco Imperials as well. There are some clans better than others, but High Elves in general are horrible. Are they really? Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, annoying. Oh, that's good, Vulture. You're studying? Yep.
I've been so focused on defying my uncle, of fighting to keep his hands off this manor, that I never realized how much this place actually means to me. But since I've been here, I can feel the presence of my mother and father. I sense the entire history of my family and the deep roots we have in this place. I want to honor my parents. I want to honor all of my ancestors. The Croft family may be all but destroyed, but I will make our name and our home great again.
Now to get the rest of the collectibles in this DLC that have appeared now that we've finished the main thrust of it. So as we can see, some renovations have taken place. The opening in the roof has now been fixed. There's still, damage and stuff, but Lara's getting things all fixed up. It's a shame though we haven't actually had a new Tomb Raider game where we get to explore the manor like we did in the old ones. But you never know. Coffee, does Australia have daylight saving time? That's true, yeah, we do have that. For some, it's great. For others, it's not. I forget to change because all my time on my phone and everything, it automatically changes, so I hardly ever notice it straight away. Until I'm doing something, I'm like, hang on, it feels later than it used to. I've already listened to this, but we'll play it again. Alright, so we have 49 and 54 relics. We've got all the documents, and there's one more mural left to find. Here we go. These are the dual pistols that Lara used at the end of the 2013 game, which is the only time this version of Lara has actually used them in gameplay. They kept on teasing these as something that Lara would get in this trilogy, but it never happened. And we're now robbed, though, of seeing her get them in another game because the animated series that came out has already had her get the dual pistols as something that she uses, so... Because I would have loved to be playing one of these newer games and have this epic moment where Lara pulls the dual pistols out and then it segues into gameplay where you start using them and keep them for the whole game.
I can still remember the last time I fired these.
Roth's pistols. Yeah, Vulture, I know. Yeah, they've been working on it for years now. The last game came out in 2018 and they've been working on it for quite a while now. But there's been no new concrete news about it. So when we get it, who knows? Could be a year, 2, 3, 5, 6 from now.
The Atlas, such an amazing piece of craftsmanship. Sophia insisted I take it home with me.
Well, that's good, Vulture. Hopefully it comes out on the date that they've actually said now. A lot can happen in a week or so.
The broken sword I brought back from Yamato.
Come on, where'd the prompt go? There we go.
One of Winston's notes. He always hid sweets for me to find.
Lara, Jaffa Cakes next to William Blake. Oh, well, thank you very much, Vulture. Thank you for that. I'm glad that you enjoy the channel and you enjoy the streams as well.
Well, hello there, Sir Lancelot. Don't worry, I won't be boring your sword this time.
This is a little bit of a reference to Tomb Raider Legend, which deals with the Arthurian legend, and of course, Lancelot is one of the knights associated with that. Okay, so we've got one more relic to find. So it's an Ancestor's Legacy item. Vulture, are the original games connected to the newer Tomb Raider? They're not, no. Completely separate. Some think that they are, but that's incorrect. Ah, yeah, that's what it was. Just the prompt to play that music again. Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, like, these newer games, because it's an origin story of Lara, people just assume automatically that they're prequels. But there's one major thing that separates the versions. I mean, there's a lot of things that separates the versions, but one of the major things that separates them is the fact that the original version of Lara Croft, her parents are very much alive. They don't die. Whereas in this version, Lara's parents died when she was a child. That's true, Vulture. Yeah, the Netflix Tomb Raider show is a direct continuation from Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So it's set after that game.
Did this open the secret door from the inside? Hope I'm not trapped in here.
Well, she wonder what the new game will be called. Tomb Raider something. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not even sure what they would go with. Because I think that show got a second season. So I don't know if they just want to wait until the writers of the show have decided on the direction, or if they're going to reboot again, which is possible. They might do that. But there was also a live-action Tomb Raider series in development as well, but not much has been revealed about that. Whether it's going to be in the same universe as this version of Lara or not too sure. Well, you need to watch the series. Yeah, I wonder if they will eventually release it on other stuff. But Netflix might have an exclusivity deal with it. Although, I think Amazon owns the rights to the movies and stuff now. But who knows, because sometimes there's multiple rights owners for different elements of the one franchise. Someone might own the rights to the books, whereas someone might own the rights to make movies. And the person who wants to make the movies can't make a book unless the people who own the rights to the books allow them to, or vice versa, you know. But I don't know what the go is with all the rights and stuff. Paramount Pictures used to have the movie rights because they did the first 2 Tomb Raider movies. I think the new one that they did in 2018 was Paramount as well, or MGM. Yeah, it was actually MGM. But then MGM, they didn't retain the rights. They didn't renew the rights to the movies. So the sequel that was in development with Alicia Vikander was actually cancelled. And that's when I think Amazon got the movie rights. But they've also got Amazon Gaming has the games rights or something, at least to the newer ones. Because Square Enix owned Crystal Dynamics at one point, but now Embracer Group owns Crystal Dynamics. So it's like, it's all topsy-turvy and all over the place. Whenever I do this DLC, there's always one thing, without fail, that I get stuck on actually trying to find. Which I hope I find soon, because I want to actually end the stream soon, and then take a break, and then come back with another game. Vulture, you need to watch the series. You also need to get the AC books and the Witcher books. Yeah, I never read past Assassin's Creed. Well, it didn't come out in chronological order to the games, but the last Assassin's Creed book I read was actually The Secret Crusade, which adapts AC1 and the Bloodlines game into the one story. But beyond that, I haven't read any other ones. I do have the one Underworld with Henry Green in it, but I haven't actually read that one. And I haven't read the Witcher books either. Coffee Shop movie was very mediocre. Yeah, that's definitely fair. I like it as a Tomb Raider movie. However, it's a very, very poor adaptation of the 2013 game. The whole point of the 2013 game with Lara and Himiko was to set up a situation where Lara didn't believe in anything supernatural, coming up against something that is supernatural, with Himiko being able to control the storms and the weather on the island. But in the movie, none of that is in the story at all. Himiko's in it, but she's dead fully, like completely dead. Whereas in the game, she's half dead and half alive. And in the movie, with her completely dead, they just make it that when they open up the coffin or sarcophagus that her body's inside of, it unleashes some kind of like toxic thing in the air or something like that. Or maybe it was to the touch of her body or something. So they completely butchered that aspect of it, and that's just one of the things they butchered from the original source material, which was the 2013 game. But I like the action sequences. They did a great recreation of the whole thing where Lara is inside that plane that then she falls out of, and then falls into the river rapids, and goes down the rapids and all that kind of stuff. That was really well done. Thank you, Vulture, for redeeming the random Assassin's Creed quote. The one where Edward sees Adewale again. So the one where he sees Adewale again. Oh, yeah. Dr. Darling, is this the Spencer Croft mansion? Very nice there, Dr. Darling. There's a nice correlation between Tomb Raider and Resident Evil. I mean, they're not in the same universe or anything, but Resident Evil 1 original and Tomb Raider 1 original came out in the same year. So I know the one that you're thinking of, Vulture. It's the one after Edward is sober again, after the big dream, well, hallucination, drunken dream sequence that he experiences. Might go directly to Adewale's quotes. It might. So do you mean that point? Oh, you do, Vulture. Oh, good. Because I was going to ask too, because I thought of this as well, because there's also the point where he goes to Tulum again and speaks. But I found the one here, the exact one. You put me on a spot, Ade. After you leaving me with Roberts, I should have hard feelings about seeing you here. But mostly, I'm bloody glad. Me too, brother. And you'll be chuffed to know your jackdaw is still in one piece. Shall we set sail for... You're leaving? Aye, Edward, for I've another calling elsewhere. Ade, listen, when your heart and your head are ready, visit the assassins. I think you'll understand then. There we go, Vulture. Thanks for redeeming that random Assassin's Creed quote. I got a feeling that what I'm missing is actually down in the area where you crawl through the crawl spaces. Yeah, that was such a great scene, Vulture, you know. I like how Adewale, you know, hasn't given up on Edward. It'd be understandable if he did, though, because, you know, Edward really does a lot of stuff to put Adewale in a very difficult position. But it just goes to show the strength of the friendship that they've created as well. And I love it too that it's the point where Adewale has joined the assassins. And it leads into that whole thing when Edward meets up with Adewale again in Tulum and speaks to Artabai, and how different Edward's become as a result of the experiences he's gone through, and getting chills just thinking about it. I only just played the game recently too. But the next playthrough of that will be for my annual runs, which I'll need to get cracking on soonish. But I'm doing them in not categories. I'm doing them in well, I'm grouping them into various, well, groupings of games in the series, and then having breaks in between by doing other games. So the first grouping will be Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed Bloodlines, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations, Assassin's Creed 3. Then I think what I might do is put the separation there, and then do Black Flag and Liberation as 2 on their own. Although maybe I might put them in with the others, and then have Unity and Syndicate, Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla, and Mirage. I'm not going to be playing Shadows until I know what happens at the end of the game. Plus it'll probably be too expensive here anyway. Would have been fire if Hatham was an assassin. Yeah. Definitely would have been good if he was. But the Templars saw to him not when they killed his father in front of him when he was 10 years old. And then took them under his wing and manipulated him for years. You know, typical Templar stuff. They don't like people to join of their own accord. They like to add some form of manipulation to the person to make them feel like that's the direction they should take. Evil. Yeah, I mean, you have some Templars that are good. Like, I actually like Elise. I think she's a Templar that it's understandable why she's not considered by Arno or some other characters as being like a threat. I mean, Belek, of course, is a different story, but how he feels about Elise, but... There's a lot of arguments too where people are like, but the Templars are right though. It's like, well, being right doesn't mean that it's something that should be a thing. You know what I mean? Thank you for redeeming that, Dr. Darling. I'm going to look up what I'm missing because timing-wise, I'm not happy with how things are going. Alright, so Ancestor's Legacy. Benjamin Croft statue bust. Unknown statue bust. Bust of Richard Croft. Croft family crest. The Golden Rose. Croft family crypt. To the right of the steps when you enter the crypt. Aha.
My great-grandmother Rose, nicknamed the Golden Rose for her perfect reputation. I wonder what she would have thought of me.
Actually, this is another reference to classic Tomb Raider. I think it's in Chronicles, the secrets are actually golden roses. Maybe I'm thinking of a different flower. Look it up. Tomb Raider Chronicles Secrets. Yep, golden roses. There we go. Alright, so that's another reference to classic Tomb Raider. So in Tomb Raider Chronicles, which this year celebrates its 25th anniversary, the secrets that you find are collectibles, which are golden roses. There we go. Alrighty then, so that is now the Blood Ties DLC 100% done. 54 of 54 relics, 40 of 40 documents, and 2 of 2 murals. So this is where I'm going to officially call the playthrough done for Phase 1 of celebrating this game's 10th anniversary. It won't be the only phase, otherwise I wouldn't have called it Phase 1. There will be other phases throughout the year. I don't actually know when, though, but it'll be this year sometime, for sure. Doing something different approach, different content. So this is where I will actually call it, but of course I will redeem that redemption, or honor that redemption, I should say. Dr. Darling, Gavin! Gavin. That's what Red Dead Redemption 3 should be. That's what the true follow-up to Red Dead Redemption 2 should be. Bill! Bill, I've come for you! Bill Williamson! Come out here right now!
Go away now, John. Don't make me kill you.
Nobody needs to kill anyone, Bill.
You must think I was born yesterday. You always did think I was an idiot.
That ain't fair, Bill. You were as my brother. I've come to try to save you.
Do I look like I need saving?
Bill, please, they want to kill us all. I can help you.
Well, you never tried to save me before. You only seem to save yourself.
Bill, I implore you, think about this.
You implore me. You implore me. You always were one for fancy words. Well, things are different now, John. Now I'm in charge. No more Dutch and no more you. Implores. I implores you to go back and tell them to send someone just a little bit more impressive next time.
That's from Red Dead Redemption 1. Thank you very much for redeeming that, little darling. Hey there, Mr. Goatee. How's it going, dude? Just about to end the stream, but I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for the GG's coffee. Muchly appreciated. No, Biko, not until Wednesday. Yeah, Tomb Raider Chronicles will be the next remaster I do, but that will be Wednesday. But I'll be on after I take a break with another game. Gavin, where's your lord? I would like to speak to him about the Alliance map. Oh no, not the Alliance map. Thanks, Mr. Goatee, for redeeming that. Thank you, everyone, for watching the stream. I'll be back in... Well, I was going to take an hour break, but I can't now because timing's off. Before I end, though, I just want to give some shout-outs. Would like to highly recommend people check out Mr. Goatee's channel if you haven't before. He's doing games like Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. He's also a fan of Elden Ring, as well as the Outlast games. Also a fan of the Dark Pictures series of horror games by Supermassive, Man of Medan, Little Hope, House of Ashes, The Devil in Me. And also a fan of their other games like Until Dawn, the original, and also The Quarry as well. So yeah, definitely recommend checking out Mr. Goatee's channel if you haven't before. And I will be back in... Let me see. Alright, so I'll be back in 50 minutes. Because 10 minutes has gone past the time I wanted to actually finish the content. But then them's the breaks as a streamer. So I'll be back in 50 minutes, after a 50-minute break, with Man of Medan to do a... Now I need to check this actually, before I say... Aha. So I'm going to do a Man of Medan playthrough doing the heart choices in that game. So that's the playthrough I'll be doing. If you see me streaming that, then you know it's still Monday here. The next stream after that would be Wednesday, Tomb Raider Chronicles. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in 50 minutes.